will do it. Due for Bournemouth. The roof of the Gold Sands is raised. Everyone here knows what that could mean to this football.
Good evening. We are live. It's just gone 8 o'clock this Sunday night. Hello. Hope you're doing well. My name is Sam Davis and welcome to Back of the Net, the AFC Bournemouth podcast and YouTube channel. If you've not seen or heard of us before, we put out unofficial but regular content all about the Cherries on a regular basis over on YouTube, and there's a weekly podcast as well. Now, obviously, there's not a lot to talk about recently, but we've still managed to chat to some high-profile characters in the game. Matt Holland last week, that was great. For a local stance, we had Neil Meldrum from the Daily Echo, who wrote The Fall and Rise, ex-editor, of course, and that spoke a lot about the minus 17 days and whatnot. So do feel free to subscribe if you're watching on YouTube and have a look through that content. And there's more to come, more interviews as well. And if you're on Facebook, why not give us a like? Now, we're trying to do these live shows every so often to keep up the Cherry stimulation. And we were going to go live on Thursday, but we paused it till Sunday. And there's a reason for that, because we got a special guest with us tonight. Now, Thursday, AFCB TV put out one of their Cherries Repicked series, and what a game it was. It was our 5-1 demolition of Fulham at Craven Cottage. It was really good to go over the championship winning. I mean, so many great memories, and the person we've got tonight will help us with that. Not least, did Steve Cook mean that fifth goal at Fulham? Not really sure. Now, speaking of Steve Cook, by the way, I'm not sure if you've seen it on Twitter, but there's a Twitter account called Panini Cheapskates. Everyone loves collecting paninis, right? But they've done artist impressions of some AFC Bournemouth footballers and released them recently. And I'll put them on screen now to tell you who is not on the show tonight. So it's not Steve Fletcher. It's not Steve Cook. We haven't got Jason Pearce tonight. How many beers has he had? We've not got Charlie Daniels. And also, it's not Nathan Ake. So who is it? It is Mr. Tommy Elphick, and he is standing by for us. He's a player that played over 140 games for us, captaining us for a large part of it. A rock at the back. His pre-match ritual was infamous, and rarely has a player formed such a close bond with fans in such a relatively short space of time. Now, he joined us in August 2012, and it wasn't long before we were working our way up the leagues, getting promotion from League One and then consolidating in the Championship with a 10th place finish. But who knew the following season we'd be actually getting promoted as champions into the Premier League? He was a large part of it, and it led to amazing scenes like these on Bournemouth Beach.
We are going! We are going! So, Tommy, we're absolutely delighted to have you here. How are you?
Yeah, very well. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem at all. How are you coping with the lockdown and everything that's been going on recently?
Yeah, same as everyone, really. It's tough. But I've got a 2-year-old and a 3-month-old keeping me busy. And I'm out of a serious injury at the moment. So managing to get through my rehab fine at the moment at home. But missing the everyday action of being in, like everyone is in every walk of life. So strange times, but I'm doing all right.
Good stuff. So you've also got Jeff Hayward here from the podcast. Jeff, how are you doing?
Fantastic. Obviously with Tommy here, fantastic.
And also we've got North Stand season ticket holder and pretty much an AFCB influencer these days, Tom Jordan. Earlier last week, you were trying to instigate a chant for Steve Cook, who, Tommy,
You must feel sorry for Steve Cook being at the club for so long, yet not even having a chance. What's going on there?
Yeah, it's not good enough. Not good enough. We need to sort that out.
So, Tommy, most football fans will be aware that you joined us in 2012, but before that, you came up through the ranks at Brighton, and you forged a successful path with them. You got promoted to the Championship with them, but you got injury struck at one point, and then you were playing a pre-season friendly for Brighton in the 2012 season. Then, in the flash of an eye, you signed for Bournemouth. How on earth did that come about?
Yeah, so obviously come through the youth team at Brighton was great memories and great times. And the season we got promoted to the Championship, on the last day of the season, I ruptured my Achilles. And I think game to game I was out about 16 months. And obviously it's a long time to be out and missed a lot of football. And then one pre-season I'd come back, and the idea was to go out on loan. Gus Poyet was the manager at the time where I got on with Famous, and hold in such high regard. And it was a really exciting time to be at Brighton. And I had the options of, I had about 6 different options to go on loan back to League One to get play. And the idea was to go, you could still do like a 3-month loan at that time, to go for 3 months, come back and try and get back in the Brighton team leading up until Christmas. And then if that didn't work on, then it was probably time to move on, and sort of rattled it down to 3 clubs. I think it was Bournemouth, Coventry, who had just come down to League One, and MK Dons, who were sort of just coming through the leagues. And Bournemouth was the first club that I went to, and my agent was responsible for bringing Charlie Daniels to the club as well. So I had a bit of a connection with the club, and he said it'd be a good idea to go and visit Bournemouth first. Went down, met Paul Groves, was impressed by what I'd seen. I'd obviously taken a bit of an interest in the club when Cookie had moved to see how he was doing. Sat down with Paul Groves and drove away, and I thought it just might be time for a change. So again, spoke to Brighton. They was open to the idea. They had a price tag. Bournemouth met it, and the rest is history, as they say.
It was all a bit acrimonious, wasn't it, with the ending of Paul Groves and the Sean Brooks era, because they didn't last too long, and it did end fairly badly, as I recall. How was it for you as a player?
Yeah, I mean, two really great guys, 2 really good coaches, but I sensed very quickly that I wouldn't say it was a bad feeling there, but it was a bit fragmented. The attendances were low for the start of this season, and it was a very, very strange time. Everyone knows what the chairman, Eddie Mitchell, at the time was quite vocal, and like I was never used to anything like this. And he was turning up in the dressing room and giving this team talk at stage, and I mean, what is going on here? And about 3 or 4 weeks in, I remember ringing my dad and saying, I think we've had a bit of a boo-boo here. I think we've made a bad mistake. We're in a bit of trouble. And it wasn't through the bad work of Paul and Sean. They were good coaches and good guys, as I said, and we had a very, very talented squad. But things were fractious and pretty fragmented, and it needed bringing together. Obviously, you never want to see anyone lose their jobs, but we found out quickly that Eddie was interested in coming back, and just remember that the sort of the feeling around the club changing overnight. So it obviously led to a great rise, and obviously, as I said, never want to see anyone lose their job, but. With the opportunity of Eddie coming back, it was an amazing time to then be at the club. Yeah,
Tom, Jordan, you'll know what the fans' reaction to Paul Groves was, and it wasn't particularly great, was it?
No, it was a difficult one, because I think Tommy would probably, agree with me here that we had a good group of players, which obviously it proved in the end. And I think that was probably the main thing, is we felt we had a really good squad there, some good talented players, and just weren't getting the best out of them. And like I say, maybe it just needed bringing together a little bit, and that's what Eddie managed to do, because it seemed like a really good talented group of players for that level, and it just for one reason or another it wasn't clicking. And like you say, there were things behind the scenes and Eddie Mitchell, etc. And it was bizarre at the time, because you just felt like it only needed a little tweak to really kick on.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, do you think that, Tommy, that the stick they got from the fans at least was perhaps unjustified, given that between Brooks and Lee Bradbury, they signed our back four. They signed yourself, Charlie Daniels, Steve Cook, and Simon Francis. So, you could argue that their transfer decisions weren't bad.
No, they laid down some pretty solid foundations, didn't they? And I remember Lee Bradbury losing his job, and a lot of lads were still sort of caught up on that. Obviously, I'd never met Lee or worked under Lee, but a lot of lads were quite fond of Lee. Just the way it had come about, and I don't know. There was two. If Paul and Sean had been given full reign, I think, and been able to manage the club and coach the lads the way they wanted to, I think they would have done a little bit better than what they had. And listen, an owner puts their money in and invests in a squad, they can do what they want at the end of the day. It's their football club. But I felt Sean and Paul had their hands tied a little bit. They was kicking it uphill, I think, under the circumstances that they took over. But I think, like you've just alluded to there, the foundations that they laid with some of the signings, and even previous to that, Lee Bradbury, the club do owe them something, and they set up a talented squad for Eddie to come in and mould his way.
And what were your first impressions of Eddie, and how quickly did you actually feel his impact?
Yeah, I mean, between Paul and Sean getting sacked, I think we played Leyton Orient, didn't we? We had probably a week, maybe a little bit longer leading into that game, and there was a few rumours, and there was lads like Fletcher was obviously still in the dressing room, Richard Hughes, Josh McCoy, who had known Eddie and worked with Eddie for the period that he had left before he went to Burnley. And someone like Hughesy, when Hughesy speaks, you listen, and he was very, very excited about what was to come, and the visions that Eddie would have had. So we were always desperate to get it done. One day it would look like it was getting done, the next day it wouldn't. Hughesy was trying to keep us posted as much as he could, but I think the feeling that we got when they got announced on the pitch at half time at Leyton Orient, like, we could all feel that energy coming from the fans. And just from like his first meeting, you just knew he was going with a plan. This is the way it was going to be. You're either on board or you're not. I remember he used to take us on a Monday after a Saturday game for a warm down. He used to take us down to the beach every now and then for a sort of warm down. So that was the first thing he done. We come in, we went for a walk down the beach, and he just started picking everyone's brains and getting to know everyone that way. It's quite relaxed and casual, which was genius in itself. Went back to the training ground and give us a presentation on what he expected, code of conduct, how he works. And then that evening we got a text, I think it was from the physio at the time, saying, can everyone bring £20 in tomorrow? So you had the lads, everyone brought £20 in. Was like, what's this for? We had a tournament, 4 teams, £20 each. Kevin Bond come in to watch the session. And it was just everyone play each other, round robin. And the pot goes to the winning team. And it straight away just got you in that mentality of wanting to win, and just layered it day on day. And it was just a pleasure, and I'm sure you'll agree it was a joy to watch.
I mean, as soon as Eddie got a grasp on the squad, it seemed that everyone seemed to galvanise really quickly. But I mean, at what point did you maybe feel as though you were onto something special in League One with Eddie?
Don't know. It's hard to tell, because when you're in it, you're tipping away, and you just sort of, you're on to the next one all the time. You never really stop and reflect. And this period now, it's kind of weird because you're doing a lot of reflecting because there's not a lot else you can do. But I don't know, just week on week, things grew. We went on a mad run. I think we were unbeaten in about 17, and we'd got to sort of the playoffs. And I suppose the time where I really thought he was a top manager was that League One, when I think we lost 5 on the bounce, and just nothing changed. Like his demeanour, his personality, the way we worked, just worked a little bit harder, analysed a little bit harder. And just, I've been in that situation before, and managers panic, and you start having crisis meetings. And at that stage I was captain, so it's just such an easy lead to follow. And probably looking back, that was the first time I thought, yeah, this fella's got it all.
Yeah, I mean, just before I throw to Jeff, he's going to ask you about an incident at MK Dons, which he's very interested in. We've had a couple of people ask about Eddie's training technique. So we had one from Brian Churchill, who asked how Eddie's training sessions differ from other managers, but also Smithy as well submitted a question saying which players usually came out on top in pre-season fitness tests, and did any hate said tests?
I hated them, that's for sure. I was always the one trying to jump the gun and improve my time and scores. But you don't appreciate, and I always say this to the lads that are still there that I'd speak to, you don't appreciate how good his training is until you haven't got it anymore. And that's the biggest thing I've struggled with since I've left, is just not getting what I feel is needed and what the standard would be. And I can't hide but show my feelings when I'm not getting it, you know. There's just method to all the madness. It's different every day. It's all geared up towards a Saturday. It's all geared up to how we was going to be at our strongest. And then he would drip feed in the next opponent's strengths, just to make you sort of aware of them. There was just no stone left unturned, and he controlled absolutely everything. There was no, I wouldn't say responsibility. Like JT was massive for the set pieces and would take the back four quite a bit, but always under Eddie's eye. Even like I remember times when Eddie would be like really like ill or couldn't come to training, which was like probably once in 4 years. And we had cameras around the training ground, and he would be watching on the cameras, and then all of a sudden you'd just see him crouching down in the corner because he just couldn't stay away. Just always thinking. His analysis was spot on. You'd always have to be geared up, and you'd have made sure that you'd have watched the game back or training back before the next day, because you knew you was getting asked questions about it as well. So he just had you in tune. Yeah, special manager and coach.
Yeah.
There was an incident in February of that season where we won 3-0 at MK Dons. It was a routine win. But Tommy Heffernan's Poodle asks, what did you do or say to Ryan Lowe that made Lowe want to kill you?
I'm not really sure, to be honest. I think he was probably playing so well. I don't really know. I remember him getting quite personal with Cookie over a few things that were going off the field at the time, and I sort of he's an old school pro and someone I've played against a few times. And I just said to him, you bang out of order what you just said, and it got a little bit heated at one stage. But then I never sort of saw anything like that coming. But to be fair to him, his manager rang me that evening. He rang me a few days later just to apologise and just say it just all got on top of him, and he'd been a bit sort of stressed, and there was things going on with his life, and he'd lost the head for a little bit. So, as I say, he was quite old school like that, and I don't think he meant to hurt me. He maybe had a little bit of moment of madness, but I've just suffered a sort of long-term injury where I got done in a similar sort of situation, and that lad didn't ring me, so he knows all right, but that lad's in the book.
How long did that put you out for? That what happened?
It wasn't actually that long, because it's strange actually. This season, I went to see the same surgeon that I went to see then, and we'd had a bit of a sort of joke about it because we saw the scans back from there. But I think it was about 6 or 7 weeks.
Yeah.
It was on the back of we lost 5 on the bounce, and then sort of it was on the back of that I'd come back and we'd won sort of. I think we went to Oldham away.
Because I say that because Old School on Twitter, on one of the forums, actually said, how satisfying was it to come back, from that kind of injury and then continue to be part of our success, just drop straight back in.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I really did get away with like not getting badly injured. It was bone bruising, which it sounds a bit worse than what it was. Do you know what I mean? So once I found that out, it was the big satisfaction in coming back from these big injuries. Like when I got injured at Brighton, ruptured my Achilles or whatever, and dropped down to Bournemouth to try and get back to the level, like a feeling of coming back from an injury like that is a lot greater. And obviously we've seen a lot of success stories at Bournemouth recently with the likes of Wilson and Frano, Max Gradle, Tyrone Mings, So when you come back from them serious injuries, they're the ones that you take a lot of pride in.
Tom Jordan, how quickly did you feel during that League One season that that the group of players that we've got can actually achieve something? Because obviously the start of that season wasn't so great, but then Eddie came back, as the song goes, and seemed to galvanise us. At what point did you think, hang on a sec, we got a chance here, we could go up?
I genuinely thought as soon as Eddie come back, maybe not go up. I mean, I think we were in the relegation zone, weren't we, when he come in? Or near it. But I think when he come back, I thought this is, if he can get the group together, I think Tommy alluded to it, to get that connection back with the fans as well. Eddie coming back brought that connection between the fans and the players. And as soon as we went on a little bit of a run, you felt like, well, we've got the players here. Now we've got the gaffer. I think we've clearly got a squad that should be near the top of this league. So I think it was pretty quick when Eddie come back. I think at the start of the season, I was pretty optimistic. And the start was obviously disappointing. But I always felt like, only needed a couple of wins at that level. And if we get on a bit of a run, I felt like, we could definitely go and storm the league and nearly win it.
So what were your memories of that League One promotion season, Tommy? Because obviously it all culminated and we didn't quite win it, but we put together a series of brilliant results throughout, from January through till May. What were your sort of overriding memories of it?
Like, relief was a huge one for me, obviously dropping down from the Championship, and I was just so geared up and focused to get back to the level. As I say, it was very fragmented when I got there. There was lots of sort of little cliques, and me coming in to try and do what I do naturally, try and bring it together a little bit. It was just finding out a bit of common ground. A few of us like to play cards. That was a thing. There was a FIFA group. A lot of lads went off, played FIFA in the afternoons. We quickly established a coffee group, which most of them are still at the club now. And genuinely, we had a great Christmas night out, which, again, at the right time in the right place, Eddie's all for that sort of bonding. And I remember we had a great night out, and it just seemed to bring us together. We got it out the way early. I think it was late November, early December, and that helped sort of keep the momentum going, grow the connection in the squad. Just the overriding factor for me was obviously joy and massive relief to get back to the level after such a serious injury.
Jeff?
Yeah, I was going to ask, I mean, the title, I was at that Carlisle game, which was, a superb promotion sealing victory, but after that, it sort of went a bit flat. How did that affect you, just to finish runners-up rather than champions?
Yeah, I mean, I think the lesson became greater, obviously 2 years down the line when we had the opportunity to win it on the last day, and it did hurt. It was a little bit flat after, but then I think senior lads like Hughesy, who was still there, Fletch, the manager, were very, very quick to remind us that how well we had done to even get in with a shout of getting promoted, let alone getting promoted. And to be honest, the celebrations, you need that bit of silverware, you need that bit of that trophy to carry around with you. And I know since sort of then they've made a runners-up trophy, isn't it? But it's nowhere near as good as the winners one. So yeah, I think that was the inspiration and the hunger going forward 2 years down the line to win a title. So could have been a little bit of a blessing in disguise, but definitely was flat and wasn't quite the celebration that we would have had if we was champions.
Yeah. Now we've had a question from Neil Dawson, who said Eddie used to wheel Fletch out in training whenever we were going to come up against a big centre forward, so the team could practice. Did you ever win a header against Super Fletch?
Well, they're sort of things as well that not a lot of managers would think of doing, and that's just the way we prepared as well. So Fletch was an awkward character, in his prime, and probably still is to this day. I still see pictures of him being wheeled out, and I think he's still using them. I love
the fact that everyone says wheeled out these days. I love it. It's superb.
I went to one of the games this season and bumped into Fletch, actually, Sheffield United away, and he's still looking as fit as ever, and I think he's still getting involved in training as well. So I imagine he is using him still. Yeah.
What was the transition like, Tommy, when you played in the Championship that first season? Was it much of a step up from League One?
Yeah, well, for me, it was a strange one because Eddie won't mind me saying this, but we had a little bit of a Barney that pre-season. I'd come off the back of a serious injury, and me and Eddie were so tight, and we had such a good relationship, and still have now. But obviously, along the way, when you with your manager, you're always going to have some sort of, maybe not see eye to eye. But after the League One promotion, he said to me, "Look, you've had a serious injury." He said, "Just really chill out this summer. Don't do too much." And I probably chilled out a little bit too much. And I come back pre-season, and I wasn't like, looking back, I wasn't where I should have been. But I felt I had a good pre-season, and I was the skipper. And I remember doing a fans forum on the Thursday night that we used to do before the start of the season, and me and Eddie were doing it with Chris Temple, and Eddie pulled me after. He said, "Look, I'm not going to start you." He had signed Elliot Ward, and I thought, what? Like, I just didn't see it coming. Like, I'd had such a good run under Eddie and was playing so well. I just didn't think, you know what I mean? And that's probably a little bit of complacency or whatever you call it. But I went to instructions. I didn't do too much in the summer, and I'd come back. So I'll always sort of defend myself a little bit. But he left me out the first few games. I remember we got a right few idings. We lost to Watford. I think it was about 6. So the transition, I think, from League One to the Championship probably wasn't quite as smooth as it was from the Champ to the Prem. But then myself, I got sort of to a stage where he put me back in, and then didn't look back and got back to where I needed to be. And obviously we went on a great run again, and just missed out on the playoffs.
Tom Jordan, what were your memories of that early Championship era? Because we got some batterings, didn't we?
Yeah, it was bizarre because we were clearly playing the way Eddie wanted us to play, and I think we started with a win, and then we got humped and we got a few hidings away from home. But I was going to ask Tommy, actually, because we got a few big hidings. You know, I think we conceded 6 at Watford and then 5 at Huddersfield shortly after. You said earlier about Eddie never panicking. Was there ever a point where he tried to tweak a few things because of that? Because, you know, we were playing very brave football, I would say, that we could get away with, if so to speak, in League One because we had quality players. When you were coming up against teams in the Championship, maybe some of that kind of play from the back and, you know, short football and very brave football, we got caught a few times early in the season. And was that everything that Eddie tried to tweak at all, or did he just keep pushing it?
No, I just kept pushing it and back to the drawing board, back to analysing, back to stripping it back. That's one thing he would always do in times where we wasn't getting a result, is always sort of strip it back to our basics. He flirted a couple of times with a 3 at the back, but I don't think it suited us. And then, just went to work with it, kept the faith. I think the reason why he's done so well and the lads have done so well for him is it's all built on trust. And when you trust the man so much, when you see how much he works and what he puts into it, you can't not trust him. And that's where it shines through, you know, in the times of need, where you need a bit of help. You just trust in what he's telling you, and you get through them periods.
I think you were part of this small group that went from League One to Championship to Premier League. I think you even called them misfits, Tommy. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it must have been daunting, wasn't it, to do those steps up and raise the bar? And were all the players believing that they could do it in the same way as you did?
I think so, yeah. And that was probably part of my job as captain, is to try and make them believe. As I say, it was so hard not to believe Eddie in his methods, and we knew we had a special manager. And I think the balance of the squad, and not just the 11 that were playing, but the squad, when you look back, and some of the players who weren't playing in that Championship season who are now playing, and the way it was all put together, the way they recruited, the way we trained, so hungry, just was a really, really special time. And we was all coming to an age where it was now or never to get to them sort of levels. And just, after the way we played in the season, we went up from the Championship to the Prem. A lot of people were doubting us that we'd go straight back down, but that was pretty foolish. And we had an internal drive and an internal confidence that we would be all right.
Didn't you say that there's a quote in one of the books you read, Jeff, recently about that QPR game in the first season of the? I think that's like where we went down to 10 men, didn't we? And Harry Redknapp was in charge at that point.
Yeah, I think that was a game where we came out on top, Tommy, and that from what I've read about you is one of those games where you felt you had the belief that you could actually do something serious in the next championship campaign. Do you want to just tell us why that game meant so much to you?
Yeah, I think we originally at the start of the season we'd struggled a little bit, and then we was gaining momentum all the time. And we'd beaten QPR. We had a real talented squad. We went down to 10 men. I think I might have scored as well. But I just thought if we could keep going in that manner till the end of the season, with the manager that we had and the sort of profile of the club, a lot of lads would want to come and join us and be excited about it. And the momentum is just the key in these promotions, and that spiraled over into the next one. The way we ended that first season in the Championship is what got us off to such a good start and took us to where we needed to be.
Interesting. So yeah, we got promoted, and it was, it was quite funny when we got promoted into the Championship. The media were taking a lot more notice of us, and also a lot more notice of you, namely something that happened before every single game. And we had a couple of questions that were submitted about this. So firstly, this quick one from Harrison.
Hi Tommy, what was the meaning behind your pre-match ritual?
But also we had this from Tony, which I like the way he worded this one.
Tommy, you've got quite a strange pre-match ritual. Has anyone ever tried to stop you doing it? And where are they buried now?
So yeah, tell us what that ritual was all about, and did you ever have any kind of issues doing it?
No, never. The only issue I had is when that second season in the Championship, the photographer used to take a picture of us all lining up, and I was never in any of them. And it was after about 5 or 6 games. Like, what? I've only got 10 players in these. Oh, sorry, I'm not changing for the world. But it was just, I don't know, something over time. One of my first games at Brighton, our goalkeeper had the wrong colour jersey on, and the kit room was miles away, and our kit man had really dodgy knees, and it took him an age to go and get the sort of substitute goalie kit or whatever, so the keeper could change it quickly before the game. And I just felt myself switching off, and I went over to the post, banged my boots off at the post, and we won the game. So then before every game, I'd end up banging my boots off. And then I met a psychologist down the line. He said, "Oh, I've seen you doing this." I said, "Yeah, listen, I'm mad superstitious." He said, "Oh, look, it's a good time for you to take yourself away, remind you of what you need to be doing, and maybe say a few things." So that's where it sort of developed, and it's always stood me in good stead. So yeah.
Yeah.
Is there anything else, Tommy, like apart from football, that you do like a superstition, like before you make it a cup of tea or something?
No, it hasn't stopped. Like there was a few in the change room. Charlie Daniels was bad for it as well. I'd always see Chaz going into the physio room, placing these, like, we had like a book rack in there, and he'd always place his phone in the same place in this, like, in between these two books. But mine would start on like a Friday morning, and I'd love to, like, throughout the week, I like to tick certain things off, like little movements and different practices. The amount of potatoes I have and broccoli, and there's all sorts. Yeah.
Yeah. Tom Jordan, you always have been a fan who loves players who've got that, sort of, almost like a connection with the fans. And did you feel that routine at the start of every game, it almost helped us to bring sort of us closer to the team? Because, you did the post thing, and then after that you sort of ran off, and then you G'd up the fans, and that's what other players do. When Charlie Daniels runs out onto the pitch, he kind of like has his moment where he G's himself up and G's up the fans. Steve Cook has that sort of connection too. Tom, you enjoyed those moments, didn't you? Yeah,
big time. And I think that was what I was going to mention to Tommy actually, is that obviously it was quite clear on the pitch Tommy was the leader. You didn't need to be wearing a captain's armband for anyone watching to see that Tommy Elphick was the captain. It was quite clear on the pitch. But I always felt that off the pitch, that team, as much as they were probably considered inexperienced for that level, it would seem like a group of players that were real leaders off the pitch. Andrew Sherman, Simon Francis, Steve Cook, Charlie Daniels. Seemed like we had quite a lot of leaders off the pitch as well. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, even people like Ian Hart, Sylvain Distin when he come to the club, Artur Boric. I think the key behind that is the recruitment and how much detail and planning goes into the characteristic of the person that they're bringing in to make sure that they fit in with the club's style and what they expect. As I say, as a sort of someone who was seen to be the captain, it was easy. It was a pleasure. People like Harry Arter. The important thing became, because we was doing so well in that season, we went up. The important thing become the ones behind the 11, if you like, to be reminded that they are doing so well, that they are so valued, that we do need them, that they are part of it. Because when you're not in that 11, you can be forgotten. And the strength of that team was the underbelly for me.
And that second championship season, Tommy, that started, well, it was 26 seconds in, and I started getting really excited that we could do something special. That's how long it took for Mark Pugh to score. That first win against Huddersfield, that must have been a big moment. Big moment.
As I say, you always want to see that momentum carry over. We had a good pre-season, made some really, really good signings. I think in that book as well, it's well documented that when Dan Gosling come in, like great character, great lad. And I remember just having a coffee with him one day and just sort of saying to him, he'd been at some big clubs, what do you think of the standard? And he just said, like, I'm blown away by it. I can't believe the training. I think we've got a chance. And when people like that are starting to tell you that as well, you start to believe. So it was nice to get the first one on the board. I think we got off to a good start. We stuttered a little bit, but then the season just took care of itself. And even in this period now, when like the club have been putting a few games on and whatnot, I've watched a little bit of the film on the other night, and just brings back so many good memories. And we're spoiled because I honestly think that you could put that team up against any team, or put that squad up against any squad that's ever won the championship. I think that was the best ever, because it was such a competitive league. So many teams were spending money. Like there was massive players, clubs that had come back down from the Premier League that were expected to go up. I just held that team in such a high regard.
It's funny, we've had a message from Steve Butler saying, Tommy, can you put your ring lights on? Absolutely not a problem at all. It's quite interesting. I mean, hopefully you can still hear us. But, towards the end of our second season in the Championship, where Bournemouth fans, thought that promotion was a possibility, there were numerous moments where we thought, oh my goodness, maybe it's not going to happen. And I can name a few of them individually for me, like going 2-0 down at home to Birmingham. Thankfully, we came back and won it 4-2. There was a moment that Steve Butler, who just messaged there was a half-hour delay from one of the kickoffs where you and Artur Boric were having a kick around on the Wessex Way due to traffic problems. Can you remember those days?
Yeah, so Artur obviously coming from Southampton. I used to live sort of Ringwood. So we used to come down the Wessex Way, and there was a bad smash. And obviously is it the A338 or whatever they call it?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. If you ever got traffic there, like there was no sort of getting off, and we were stuck there for ages. And me being superstitious as well, I always like to be one of the first in, and I've got all these routines going on, and I need to do this, and I need to get a rub, and I need my strappings down, and all this is going through my head. And anyway, the club send a car up the other side of the motorway. So me and Artur abandoned the cars, jump over the central reservation, get in the car, and we was coming off wherever we could come off, and Ferndown, I think, and then going round the back. And I think as we jumped over the central reservation, the traffic had got going, and we was going the other way. It was half hour, but we ended up, I think we drew 0-0, and I hadn't got any superstition, so that put all that to bed.
Well, it's those little moments that I sort of thought, oh my goodness, maybe it's not going to happen. And it's quite interesting because we had a question from Kirk who asks when you felt promotion turned into a real possibility. Let's listen to this one.
Firstly, I'd like to thank Tommy for the memories. His commitment, leadership and focus through those promotions to the Premier League was just an absolute privilege to watch. As fans, we all have our opinions on the success that we had to the Premier League and who defined those. But for Tommy, was there a player, persons, whether that's on and off the pitch, or a game, which you felt would secure us promotion to the Premier League?
Go for it. The player that even I actually spoke to him a few weeks ago as well. The player that I always look to for inspiration, and this people might not think this, but the one I always used to look that would dig me out of a hole if I ever sort of made a mistake or if it weren't going right, and he would be the one to set the tempo Monday to Friday, and it was Matt Ritchie. He was just like an absolute machine. And if things weren't going right for the back four, he would just help you out so much. And if things weren't going right for the boys up front, he was the one to pop up with a goal. I mean, there's so many to Artur Boric made a huge difference. We had a back four that was all on the same page. Harry Arter, another one who I used to look to that used to inspire me hugely. Having someone like that in front that you could just lend the ball to. Andrew Sermon. You could go through the whole lot. Callum Wilson obviously was huge for it. But I think the one who was the most consistent every single day was Matt Ritchie. Literally, even on a Friday, the manager would be dragging him in at 2:00 in the afternoon. Like, he would just be out there left foot practicing free kicks and cutting in on the left foot. He was just, the boy was a machine, and great lad. We used to clash like anything, me and him. Like, we used to come in at half time and we'd be rocking like you wouldn't believe over certain things, but it was because we cared so much, because we knew what each other was capable of, and just respected each other so much. So he was the one player that I think if we'd have lost him at a point in that season, it would have hurt us. In terms of games, I don't know really, because the mentality of our manager and the mentality of the squad was we never really, we would always come in and debrief on a Monday, but we would never stop. It was always looking to improve for the next one. So it was always a possibility after we won 5-1 at Huddersfield, and like even going back to the season before at QPR and moments like that. But I don't suppose until we've done it, really, or certainly after sort of the debacle between Middlesbrough and Fulham and what had happened there, and we had the game on the Monday, then I thought, it's game on here. I had no doubt in my mind that we would do it then. Yeah, there wasn't one really standout moment. There were some massive, big moments, weren't there? Cameron Jones, and some sticky moments as well, which every season has.
Yeah, I was going to touch on the sticky moments. The Sheffield Wednesday game, it just felt like, unfortunately, Smithy gave away that penalty right at the death. And it felt like from the fans and the players that almost felt like, have we just blown it? Kind of feeling. Was that?
Yeah. Smithy thought he had blown it. Smithy was obviously Frano's understudy that season, and Frano was in such good form, he just couldn't get in the team regularly. But he, again, contributed so much, and every time he did come in, he never ever let us down. And he'd come in for the Sheffield Wednesday game. I don't know whether Frano was suspended or injured.
He got sent off in the game, didn't he? And
off, that's it. Smithy come on, and then Frano missed the Bolton game, didn't he? But he gave the penalty away, and Smithy was in the change room, literally head in his hand, sort of nigh on crying, bless him. He messed it up for everyone. But then we was quick to remind him that there was still a few points to play for, and we'd be all right. So, but even there was games like Birmingham as well. I think we might have gone 2-0 down and ended up winning 4-2. Brentford was the standout one for me, that I thought, then after we'd just got to a point where we were so eyeballs out and everything was so full on, was we just tailing off a little bit. And obviously you read the book, there was a little bit of a Barney between me and the gaffer on the way back over trying to get a fresh face in. That's what I just thought the group needed, and Ken would come in and he give us that.
That Ipswich game was, I thought, pretty decisive as well, because the spirit to come back and get that result so late on was just, that must have given amazing, I was going to say unbelievable belief to the team.
Yeah, and I think you say Ipswich now, and obviously they're not doing so well in League One, but at the time they was in the playoffs and real tough team to play against, especially away. And I think it might have been an Easter weekend where you played on the Friday and the Monday, and we'd gone 1-0 down early and we was battering them. But then just kept plugging away, and obviously Kenwyn come on and got a big goal, and everything just seemed to sort of dovetail from there and run pretty smoothly.
And obviously results went our way so that it could be then decided on the Monday night, home against Bolton. I mean, you must have been nervous. I know you're a professional, but there must have been so many nerves ahead of that match.
No, it was good. Like that wow. Next 2 days was just there was no nerves whatsoever, just pure excitement. Just as I say, it comes back to the trust we all had in each other. And just how well we were drilled. If anything, we may have could have just overboiled and could have tried a little bit too hard and tried to do things a little bit too quick. And I've been speaking to Neil Perrott this week because he's doing a few features, and like my clearest Bournemouth memory comes from the Bolton game. I can just remember it so clear. Everything was a million mile an hour, and we'd gone 1-0 up early, and we was trying to win the game before 90 minutes, where instead of just relaxing, enjoying it and letting the football do the talking, and when we was good, we didn't think about it. We was just such a well-oiled machine and so balanced, and things were just spiraling almost out of control. We was going a little bit too quick for our own good. And I just remember a ball being set back to me and putting my foot on it and just screaming at the top of my voice for everyone to calm down. And we sort of did, and we just got in that rhythm and just blitzed and blew another team away.
I mean, what a game that was. And I mean, I've got a picture here of some of the after the game, it was incredible. All the fans went onto the pitch. I mean, Mark Pugh scored the first, and then we went 2-0 up very, very quickly. Jan missed a penalty, didn't he? But then, Callum Wilson made it 3-0. What was it like after that game, and where did you go? What did you do? Because I saw a few interviews on Sky Sports News the next day, and Matt Ritchie and even Eddie Howe had a little bit of a hoarse voice.
Yeah, no, it was class, and done it in such convincing fashion as well. I think we went to a club in town. We just went in our tracksuits from the ground. Eddie sat us down after the game, just well done, brilliant. Enjoy your night. Have Wednesday off, so it was Monday night. Have Tuesday off, but be ready to come back in Wednesday because we've got a trophy to try and get. And that's why I say the lessons from that day at Tranmere sort of come to the front, because those celebrations, again, they would have been very, very special still, but that trophy is so famous as well. Eddie was quick to remind us about things like that. And we wanted to do everything that we could to give ourselves a chance of lifting the trophy as well.
Yeah, Jeff.
So, Charlton, I mean, what a performance again, because the players could easily have switched off. Did you do anything special to get them focused before that game?
No, it was just business as usual. As I say, that's where the strength of the group and the strength of the manager was so clear. We were so focused. Charlton hadn't had the best of seasons. I think they had already been relegated, so we was sort of fancied ourselves, if you like, even though we probably fancied ourselves against anyone. We knew that Watford had a tricky game. And I think the ultimate thing was we wanted to go there, win and enjoy the day and enjoy winning. That was what the group was all about. We enjoyed winning. We loved winning. And just the last 10 minutes of that was like a testimonial, but it was so enjoyable. I think we were 3-0 up. Harry had got his goal against his old club, which was good for Harry. I just remember looking around, me and Cookie sort of looking at each other every 5 minutes. I think we've done this.
Well, that's one thing I was about to. We had a few comments on this. Katie Watkins said we were at the Charlton game. Was wondering at what point the players were aware that Sheffield Wednesday had scored. Were you aware from cheers from the crowd? Al Gard said at what point during the Charlton game did you realise we were champions? And also I think we had another one also from Paul Kenwood as well, who who alludes to the same thing by saying, "How did you find out at Charlton that we were champions?" It must have been quite strange for you to be playing in front of this, like, up and down.
And you probably we would have watched it like various times over the years as well. And I'd have watched it as a football fan, like 2 games are going on, and I think we had kicked off a little bit later. And I remember a weird sort of cheer coming from everywhere. What was this all about? And then there was a scoreboard in the corner that flashed up with the scores with about 5 minutes to go, and sort of just clocked myself that they was getting beat, and you could see there was a bit of commotion on the bench. I think we was probably 3-0 up at this stage. And then obviously the fans start singing Championes, and then we were having a look round and, "Hi lads, we're in here." Kick on, you know what I mean? So we got to find out, and it was just nice that it wasn't 0-0 or we wasn't behind. We were so far in front. So it was like just a pleasure the last 5 or 10 minutes. Such a joy.
Yeah, Tom Jordan, good days, weren't they? I mean, how were you watching it, and what was your reaction when it was all announced? Because it was 1-0 to Watford, wasn't it? And then is it Ate Nui who equalising to make it 1-1? And then I think it was maybe 3 minutes or so stoppage time before it was all announced. And oh, mate, I couldn't believe it. I mean, did you ever think, Tom Jordan, that, you know, for all intents and purposes, we were going to go and beat Charlton, you know, based on the form that we were in, but no one really ever thought that Watford would slip up to Sheffield Wednesday?
Yeah, I thought I was pretty confident we'd win the game. I remember thinking beforehand, I probably wouldn't mind a draw because it means we've kept the unbeaten run going, you know, and you don't want to kind of dampen the day by not winning when you're in colour party mode. But I never thought Watford would slip up, to be honest. Like you say, Sheffield Wednesday were a decent side, so it's not, looking back on it, it's not that much of a surprise. But I think I can remember vaguely, I think Charlton had a player down injured for a while, which is why our game seemed to go on longer than theirs. But I've looked back at it because, I'm not going to lie, I can't remember the game that well. But I've watched it back a few times, and watching the game back, it was probably one of our best performances of that season. We were incredible that day. I don't know if you agree, Tommy, but I remember watching that game. We could have had 10. We absolutely murdered them all game.
Yeah, we did. There was so many performances like that, though. And even right till the very end, I don't think we was getting the credit that we deserved. Like we was unbelievable. Like we were so good, and there were just so many different factors to it as well. Like I'd speak to my dad about it every now and then, and like in this period. And it was just like he used to say to me, it was just such a joy. He was just so relaxed coming to the game. You knew what you was getting. You could you had an affiliation with the team. You could resonate with the characters. It was just a real joy to watch. And I've always said, we won't appreciate it until we're fat and retired and can't do it no more. Where this little period now, it's so unique and strange. You can't help but look at good times like that. Like you see Jan Kermorgan, like what a player Jan was. Brett Pittman, just all of it. It was like a bunch of misfits, and it was an absolute, like I said it when I left, it was a masterpiece that Eddie sort of put together. It was a joke.
Yeah, super. Whilst I'm just here looking through some of the comments that come in, Gemma Burney asked you if you could please say a happy birthday to Ethan. It's his 12th birthday today.
Ethan, happy birthday. Probably frustrating one sitting indoors all day, but I hope you've had a good day and we brought a few smiles to your face this evening.
Yeah, good stuff. So yeah, the Premier League then. We got promoted. It was a bit of a strange season really because that Premier League season, Southampton finished 5th, Leicester won the league. Fake bombs weren't spotted at Old Trafford, so we had to play again when everyone was on holiday. But for the Cherries, we finished in 16th when the media had, to all intents and purposes, completely written us off. Did that almost instill a siege mentality to the squad?
It did for me. I remember doing an interview the week before on TalkSport. It was live, and it was Darren Goff. I mean, who the hell is Darren Goff to comment on football? Darren Goff, and I think it was Adrian or someone, and they were doing a preview on the season, and Adrian had sort of said how exciting it was for us to be in the league, this like little club, and you can only get this many fans. He was being a bit really respectful the way we played. We thought we would do all right, and I was sort of batting the questions off, and then Darren Goff come in. Oh, hello, Tommy, it's Darren. I said, all right, Darren. He said, yeah. Listen, mate, I've got to be honest. I don't think you've got a chance of staying up. I was like, right.
Wow.
Thanks, Darren. Like, that's all I need. You know what I mean? I'd have to beg to differ with you there, mate. Like, I think we'd be all right. Lo and behold, we was all right. And I think if you'd have wrote the script before the season as well, lost some big players. Matt Ritchie, I think, had a timeout. Myself, Wilkes had bad injuries. Tyrone, who we'd paid a lot of money for. Max Gradle. So it wasn't smooth sailing, but got the job done like we always do.
It felt like that first game, the Villa game, which we lost 1-0 at home, was a pretty tough start to the season. But then for me, it all turned around against West Ham. Is that what the players felt?
No, do you know what? Like Villa was in a strange sort of period, but I'd made some sort of on the eye good signings, and we battered them. I remember it was roasting hot, and I've got a real good pal who's a Villa fan now, and he says to me when he come to the game, he said like all he can remember is how we got like Villa got absolutely battered, and like Rudy Gusted popped up with the winner late on and rocked us. And then I think did we go to Liverpool after?
Yeah.
Right. And was really unlucky again. So there was, although we hadn't picked up the points, there was a belief sort of starting to gather again. And then was the West Ham game next?
Well, you know, at Liverpool, you say that we were unlucky, but you were also unlucky in that match, weren't you? As Kursika says, you know, what did you think about your disallowed goal, and do you think it should have stood?
Yeah, it should have stood 100%. And disappointing thing was the one that we conceded, because all some of that changed this offside rule, and we'd had referees come in and do this talk on it, and this is the way it was going to be, and it was so blatantly offside. Like away at Liverpool on a Monday night as well, and we'd run them so close. I think it would have been hard not to take belief out of that game. And again, like the West Ham game, I can remember we battered West Ham. Like we could have beat West Ham 5 or 6. And like, listen, they won't mind me saying, but I don't think we conceded one from a throw-in, which we should have stopped. I think Kingy gave a penalty away, which was preventable. And then the third goal was definitely preventable. We could have beat West Ham 5 or 6 that day. And then obviously, like personally, like I was really like I remember coming off that game and I was just so happy with where I was at personally and where we was at as a team. And just from then on, like you said, Jeff, just didn't think we'd have a problem. But as we saw, injuries crept in, and the Premier League such a psychologically it's such a test, because the first sort of period of games you're always stopping. Like in the first 4 months, I think you've got 4 international breaks that you stop for, and you don't get as many games in as you'd like, and you think I'm getting there, and then you stop, and you think you're getting there again, and you stop. And you can have a run of games where you've got 3 or 4 of the top teams, and you don't think you're going to get any points, and then you've got games where you might have 3 or 4 of the teams that are down there, and you think I've got to win these games. So again, that's where Eddie was so good, because he just didn't change throughout the whole season.
I mean, speaking of the injuries that we had, Paul Kenwood said, you know, we had so many ACL injuries at AFC Bournemouth, seems more than other clubs. Was our is our training too intense?
It's not too intense, because it makes the team what they are. It is blooming intense, bloody intense. Jesus. And like I say, where I was so used to that for 4 years, and I'd come off the back of playing for Gus Poyet, who was very similar. Since then, I'm always quick to remind the lads that I'd speak to now, you know, you don't realise how lucky you are getting what you're getting. And was that the reason for the ACLs? No, I don't think so. I think it's just probably timing and bit of wear and tear probably. But the lads have all come back really well, so that's a testament to the club, isn't it?
So what was your favourite game that season, Tommy?
Favourite game, West Ham would have been up there. I think playing your first Premier League game is always a big one. I think we survived against Aston Villa, which I'd managed to get back for. I look back, I didn't enjoy the season because I'd had such a weird injury and I couldn't get to the bottom of it. And When I got back, I wasn't quite. It took me a lot longer than what I thought it would to get back. But I think when I look back at the moment, sort of injuries have always sort of defined my career and took me in different paths. And I think getting that injury took me to Aston Villa. And listen, you play the cards you dealt, and that's what happened for me. But favourite game, probably West Ham getting your first Premier League win. That's always a big one, isn't
it? Tom Jordan, first Premier League season. Obviously, there were some amazing memories. Which was the one that stood out for you?
Oh, I think similar to Tommy. I think that first Premier League game was a weird one because we lost it. But I remember it just felt like a kind of just felt like a party atmosphere because we were in the Premier League. It was amazing. Obviously, I was at West Ham. That was up there. There was a lot of great ones. I think the way we were performing, I think after kind of Christmas time when we went on a bit of a run, the way we were competing with teams was just so good to see. We were playing the same way as we were playing in the Championship, and we were more than competing. And it was, like you say, kind of all the doubters. We were kind of shoving one back at them. I was going to ask Tommy, what I know you suffered some injuries that season, which was hard to see. But we said about League One to Championship? Did you notice was it a pace difference going up to the Premiership? Was it kind of, if you let a striker have one chance, they'd finish it a little bit more? Or
yeah, everyone's quick to say that, aren't they, about how ruthless it is, and it is. I didn't find the pace thing an issue because it's almost played in. There's a bit more respect with it. I don't know. Someone said this to me about going from League One to the Championship as well. Players give you a bit more respect and you get a little bit more time, and you definitely get a lot more time in the Premier League on the ball. It's a bit more like chess in the Premier League. I find it's very tactical and technical. And I used to find when you come up against a good striker, I always remember playing against Aguero and like sort of feeling a shadow on my shoulder, and I'm like, what's going on here? And he'd be watching me as opposed to watching what the game's doing. So they was just wired a little bit different. I found that there was a lot of players earning like huge amounts of money that maybe you could say like couldn't really see how they were earning that money, but then there was lads earning extortionate money and they was worth every single penny. So the jump between the average player wasn't great, but then the special ones, it was just a goal.
Would you say Aguero was probably the best striker you come up against?
Suarez, Aguero, Hazard, Diego Costa was good. We played against him that year. Lukaku was very good. Ronaldo, that famous pre-season game. So I've been lucky to face a few, but I think Aguero was different. Yeah, definitely.
Obviously, there were a number of players that played for AFC Bournemouth that sort of, let's say, didn't make the grade. And James Oakley, he asked, what were your thoughts on certain players and why did they not necessarily tessellate with Eddie Howe's way? Like, say, for instance, Juan Iturbe, Tekelo Ramsey. Why didn't that work for players like that?
Yeah. There's so many, and there's so many as well with bigger reputations who come and expected to do a little bit more as well. I just think the head start that the lads get who are already there on the ones that are just coming in is just such a benefit to them because it is a little bit different to other clubs. The way it's structured in training and the way they train and the tempo they train at. I think lads definitely struggle to come in and meet that tempo. There's a huge onus on training as well. The trust thing's massive for Eddie. Like, you have to gain his trust. And if you don't gain his trust, I don't think players like to come in and wait. They probably want everything immediately. So yeah, like a big one, Sylvain Distin, the year he come in. Obviously, 37, 38, been playing in the Premier League his whole career. Unbelievable specimen, unbelievable character. But had just been used to doing things differently to the way we do things. And maybe struggled to take that on board at that stage in his career. So it's a combination of things, but I'd say definitely the intensity of training and what's demanded every day from Eddie it gives the lads who are already there a foot up.
I am aware that we are stretching the time out here, so we'll do another 10 or so minutes if that's all right, 10, 15 minutes, because you've got a few questions to wrap up with. Obviously, we want to catch up with how you're doing now. But one of my questions before I hand over to Jeff, I just wanted to know, as a player, I think it's natural that there's always going to be a sort of desire to play for a bigger club. And given the crowds that turned out on the beach when we did our trophy parade, did it ever frustrate you that the club couldn't seemingly capitalise on this huge fan base in waiting?
Yeah, it is frustrating, still frustrating, even being a part of what went on and that legacy of what we put together. And even now, it must be frustrating for lads that are still there, like Cookie and Frano and Charlie Daniels, and none more so than the manager. The reasons behind it, I don't really know. Like, the club is deserving of bigger crowds, and ultimately that was something that come into play with me when I left. When I've now moved on, sort of, and spent that time at Aston Villa, like it is ridiculous how much a bigger fans group can bring to the party. The intensity of playing for that sort of club with that fan base, and Bournemouth and Eddie are so deserving of that. And like you say, looking back now on the crowds that did turn out to celebrate that with us, and even since then, I've met Bournemouth fans that can't get tickets for home games, like for love nor money, and haven't got a chance in the next 2 or 3 years. So it's hugely frustrating. But then on the flip side of that, everyone who goes is genuine and has probably been there for a long time, and is for the club, and they're lucky to have lived that for the last 5 or 6 years, whatever it is now. Yeah.
Jeff.
Yeah, so you talked about the injury kind of defining how you left the club. I mean, it was must have been desperate for you to actually leave as well. But you're now immortalised on a mural in the town. And how does that feel? And how does?
I'm really proud. Yeah, you don't. As I say, it's not little things like this remind you. And I've been lucky to do a couple of these. I spoke to Neil Perrott, who was obviously the reporter at the time for the Echo this week about a couple of things, and he's working for the club now. And it's not until you talk about it and stop and think about it, like how good that was and how lucky we was to have all lived it. And like, listen, people always remind me that I was the captain of that, but that was neither here nor there for me. It was about the group and the club and the manager, and it was the whole thing, It was a pleasure and a joy to have been part of.
I remember seeing the tearful interview with Kelly Summers on AFCB TV, and it was a hard watch. And it was. I've got a question here actually. I'll full screen me from Sam Summers, who Tom you'll know, and he said, "Is there any element at all that you wish you could have stayed at the club?"
No, because I could have stayed at the club. I was offered a new contract. It was my decision. What I've gone on to do since then, like, don't get me wrong, it wasn't what I had envisioned. It wasn't what I had planned. It didn't go the way that I'd liked it to have done. But I played for one of the biggest clubs in the country and managed to skipper them. I went there to get promoted. We got promoted, albeit probably 2 or 3 seasons too late. And I've learned more now coming away from it than I did when I was in it, and how special it was and how good it was. And that will set me up. The benefit of me leaving it will be seen after football, maybe not immediately, but it will set me up for the side after playing, if you like, the lessons that I've learned coming away from it and looking back and reflecting and knowing what was good and what isn't so good. So it will stand me in good stead, and I will benefit from it in the long run.
How different's it been kind of moving? So you're obviously Brighton, Bournemouth, and now it's gone obviously up north. How different's that been?
Listen, like really, really lucky to have grown up in Brighton, like amazing place, and then to live in Bournemouth, like beautiful place. But I love the Midlands. When I joined Villa, I took the decision to sort of renovate a house, and it's the most underestimated place in the country. I love it. So we're settled here for a little bit. I'm sort of between the Midlands and Huddersfield at the moment. Well, not at the moment, but have been since I've joined Huddersfield. But yeah, as I say, Bournemouth's a beautiful place, and I've got kids now, so to sort of think if I'd have been at Bournemouth with kids as well, like it would have been a really nice place to bring the kids up. And at the time, I didn't have kids. It wasn't until I moved to Birmingham that I got kids, but that we had kids. But yeah, so it would have been different if I had kids. But as I say, really like the Midlands. Yeah.
If a job came up for you on the AFCB coaching team, would you take it, Tommy?
Oh, geez, yeah. Like, listen, 100%. It's what I want to do. I see myself staying in football. I want to coach. I want to manage. Obviously, Eddie's got some fantastic coaches and is doing such a wonderful job. But listen, if the opportunity ever comes that I could go back and coach at Bournemouth, like 1,000,000%. It's just such a weird game, because as we're sitting here talking now, and I was only there 4 years. You know, it's not actually a long time, but we've gone through so much together. And you're there one day and gone the next, and you don't get a chance to say goodbye to anyone. And obviously, with the way the leagues have worked out, I haven't managed to go back and play there yet. So, look, I want to go back one day. Do you know what I mean? Listen, if it is coaching or managing further down the line, that'd be a dream come true.
If you were to come back to Dean Court to play as in opposition, would you still come over to the post?
Oh yeah, I'll get the other side though. Yeah,
Absolutely love it. What are your plans when you finally hang up your boots? What do you think you're going to do, or is it very much like open-ended at this point?
I'd say, like, as much as I've said, like since I've left Bournemouth, I haven't quite got what I've wanted in terms of, you know, that day to day and that being really, really turned on by training. But really lucky at the moment in the manager that I've got with Danny Cowley and Nicky Cowley up at Huddersfield. Like, sort of as close to Eddie as I've had since I've left. Can't really speak highly enough of them. So really, really gutted that I got injured at the time. I got injured because I was just getting going. And we was 8 unbeaten. We'd won 4, drawn 4, and looked like we was going to turn our season around, and sort of had a bad injury, and we had a few injuries on top of that, and it hasn't quite gone the way we have. But I'm loving working for them, and they've been so good to me in this period out. They've left it as an open book for me. I've sat in on meetings. I've sort of been there for them in terms of recruitment, and they've wanted my opinion plenty. I've been to watch games with them. I've completed a couple of my coaching badges, so there's still all that to get boxed off. But I do, like, you can never really plan for that until the day comes where someone tells you that you haven't got to wake up and be in for 9:15 the next day. So I'm 32 now. You know, I still want to get back and play 100 games and try and get a 5th promotion if possible. But for sure, like the long-term future for me is definitely in the game and hopefully coaching and one day managing.
Brilliant. Well, Tommy, it's been absolutely brilliant to have you on. We usually like to chuck in a few random questions at the end. So we had this one that was submitted by Andre Linford. So have a listen to this one.
Hi, Tommy, Sam. Tommy, during your time at Bournemouth, what was your favourite restaurant or eatery?
It was my local up in Ringwood. There was an Italian called V&G's. I don't think it's there anymore. That was my favourite. And then if it wasn't that one, it was one. What was it called? A seafood restaurant, like a tapas place down in near. What's the coffee shop? Bennett's. It was down that way.
Ashley Cross.
Yeah, and there was a seafood restaurant down there on the left-hand side, just past the traffic lights.
Trying to think. Can't quite think of it. Despite the fact I live like a stone's throw away from Ashley Cross. Oh, what? Not Lock Fine, was it?
No, not
no.
Lock Fine.
I was about to say, because that one's
not
the greatest.
There were 2 restaurants next to each other, and it was one on the left-hand side, a seafood.
Yeah.
Someone on the chat will answer that, Sam.
Yeah, I'm sure they will. And also, we had a question which was quite an interesting one, actually. So, just a sort of throwaway question at the end. If you had to choose an AFC Bournemouth player that you played with, who would be your likely phone a friend on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? What player would it be?
Depends what genre you're going here.
Yeah, that's right. Say for example, it was a question on like the Second World War or something. Steve Fletcher.
No, you just want to talk about himself for the rest of the night.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you only got 30 seconds, right?
Yeah, Hughesy by far. Yeah, by a street. Yeah. Hughesy.
Superb. Tom Jordan, what are your final words? What do you want to say? Thank you. Do you want to, he's a legend, obviously.
Absolute legend. Yeah, thanks for everything, Tommy. And you're always welcome back. And future gaffer. So look forward to seeing you. And if you do ever play against us again, come on the post and we'll give you a bit of a chant again.
Yeah. No, it is not in genuine. No, it's nice because, like I say, you're there one day and gone the next, and you don't get a chance to say goodbye, especially to the fans who are the ones who follow and travel the whole of the country to support you. So as well, from me, like it was an amazing journey, and just thank you all as well.
And Jeff Hayward, it's been a pleasure to have you on as well.
It's the pleasure's all ours, Tommy. There's a lot of love for you still. From the Bournemouth fans, and you are a deserved legend, and we can't thank you enough for everything you did. Fantastic, mate.
Thank you very much.
We don't want to make you feel too uncomfortable, so we'll end there. But anyway, thank you so much for coming on, Tommy. Really appreciate it. And thank you to everyone that's been taking part today, whether it's been a video question that's been submitted beforehand or you've been on the live chat. We really appreciate it. Coming up next week, we're going to have some more stuff. So if you're watching on YouTube, do feel free to subscribe. Or if you're on Facebook, do give us a like as well. Nice to see you, and we will see you again in the next video. Up the cherries.